It is NEPSAC girls basketball tournament. I am Steve Hewitt, as always, joined by Ethan Fuller. We have a busy week ahead of us, and we're here to break it all down.
Yeah, it's exciting to finally talk about real matchups instead of hypotheticals like we've been doing.
No real huge surprises, I guess. At the bracket, we have Nobles as a 1 seed. They get a bye because there's only 7 teams in Class AAA, and number 2 is Tabor, number Tilton. Those have kind of been the big 3 all season long. Ethan, what kind of stands out to you about this bracket, and any potential matchups that you're kind of looking forward to?
Yeah, so Class AAA, obviously a huge deal. A lot of the kind of perennial powerhouses. First year Class AAA in girls NEPSAC, as you mentioned, every team makes the playoffs. So Nobles gets the bye. They are the favorite and the top seed. Year after year, they find a way. So some team is probably going to have to go through Nobles to win it all. But when you look at the other 6, I especially was wondering how they would give up the 2 and the 3 seeds between Tabor and Tilton. I imagine Tabor must have kind of barely edged Tilton out in the standings. They split the season series, those 2 teams. They are the next 2 favorites, and I'd even put them right in the same conversation as Nobles, as teams that are kind of front runners to win it all. I think as deep as this field is, with just the amount of teams that can win a game and upset the bracket, it's hard not to see Tabor and Tilton meeting in the semifinals, which would be kind of a crazy matchup, total 50-50 toss-up. If we get to that point and we write our semifinal predictions, I don't know how I'm going to pick between those 2. Yeah. You can totally go either way. I'm going to make some fan base upset because I'm going to have to pick one, but it's all these teams are so good. So Tabor and Tilton, definitely keep an eye on them. I think for the quarterfinals, HoopWise and New Hampton for a quarterfinal matchup is a really great one too. I look at both of those 2 teams as teams that could potentially upset one of the better seeds too. If one of them goes on and wins, like Nobles is going to get a good game after that in the semifinals. But yeah, I mean, it's a small field. We've talked so much about a lot of these teams, but it's exciting again to just see the matchups. And yeah, I'm thinking a lot about this potential semifinal. So we'll see if someone can kind of break into Tabor and Tilton. That'd be Dexter or St. Andrews. They would have to pull off a serious upset, but we'll see.
That would be shocking to say the least, I would think.
Yes, it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll save our predictions for later in the week. If follow our coverage, we're gonna predict every turn here in the NEPSAC tournaments. Northfield Mount Hermon is the top seed. Number 2 is Worcester Academy. Ethan, can you kind of explain? There's 10 teams in Class AA, but like I said, only 6 teams made it. Was it 3 teams that get a bye here in this? If I'm not mistaken,
2 teams get a bye. It'll be Northfield Mount Hermon and Worcester Academy, and I believe I would need to absolutely make sure. But I talked to NEPSAC Coaches Association President Io Hart about this about a month ago when I wrote the whole playoff seedings explainer. One of the things we talked about, and I believe this is the reason why, I might need to confirm, is that to be eligible for the postseason, you need to have either a 500 record overall or a 500 record or better against in-class teams, quote unquote, in contention. So other in-class teams that are also 500 or better. I believe that none of the other 4 teams made it. So even though there could have been 2 that filled in those seeds, I think they didn't meet either of those criteria, so they were not eligible. That is my best guess again, and just kind of thinking about those teams' records, I believe that's true. I don't know if there was some other ineligibility reason, but that is my understanding of why this would be, why there's only 6 teams, because again, there's only 10 total. But once you get past that, like the 6 teams that are in here, this is an absolute battle of a field in Class AA. I think we talked about this maybe even on the most recent NEPSAC episode we had. I think Northfield Mount Hermon and Worcester Academy are the 2 favorites. I'd consider them pretty evenly matched. But after that, like Newman has been really, really strong. Darrow even recently has been great. Darrow beat Newman yesterday or Saturday. That was just like the last game of the season. Darrow got a huge win. Wilbraham and Munson, the reigning Class C champions that have made the leap up, they are really talented, but they play Austin Prep 6 seed in the quarterfinal. I was at the game where Austin Prep beat Wilbraham and Munson. So this, like, anyone can really beat anyone in this class. And that's what's going to be really interesting, especially like I look at these two quarterfinal matches. Newman and Darrow again are going to play each other right away. Two of the teams that I've talked about have made massive, massive leaps, like literal leaps from being a non-existent program in Newman and a Class D program in Darrow to being two of the better programs in NEPSAC entirely. Wilbraham and Munson coming from Class C, Austin Prep coming from Class A, but only in its third NEPSAC season ever. So these are a lot of fast rising schools. But then again, it goes back to the two teams on bye. I think you've got to get through those two. They're a little bit, like, I'm not going to say head and shoulders, but they are by a nose and maybe a little more the favorites. Northfield, Mount Herman, and Worcester Academy again. So it's fun. Just a lot of different conflicting play styles, a lot of really great individual talent in this bracket. I'm going to be watching these quarterfinal matchups especially very closely.
I have myself. I don't know why I asked if there were 3 buys. I misread the bracket, but Northfield, Mount Herman, 1C gets a bye. They'll face the winner of Newman and Darrow, and Worcester's as a 2 gets a bye. We'll face the winner of Wilbraham and Munson and Austin Prep. A lot of firepower in that class, so that should be a fun one to watch. Loomis Chaffee is the number 1 seed. They are the overwhelming heavy favorite to win this class. And what else kind of stands out to you about this bracket?
Yeah, so as you said, this is Loomis Chaffee's bracket to lose once again. They're going for a 4-peat. They've barely been touched by almost any team in NEPSAC, but especially these Class A teams. They've played Sacred Heart. I believe they beat Sacred Heart by 10. Sacred Heart is the 2 seed. They beat Kent. Kent's the 3 seed. They beat Hotchkiss pretty recently by a significant margin. It was either high double digits, it might have been 20 or more. They beat Hotchkiss, who's the 4 seed. And it's in some ways kind of too bad that Loomis Chaffee is such an overwhelming favorite, because I think after that, the 2, 3, and 4 seeds that I just mentioned are very evenly matched. I think if those semifinal matchups, like if we get Sacred Heart versus Kent in the semis, that's a really great matchup, and I think that could go either way. Hotchkiss, I think, will give Loomis Chaffee a very good game in the semifinals, but it's so tough to, again, like I have Loomis Chaffee ranked 4th in our NEPSAC top 10 and ahead of a couple of AAA schools, because they are just,
and that's NEPSAC wide.
Yeah. Yep, NEPSAC wide, and they're just so deep. They're very senior heavy this season too. Like this is a year they built towards anyway, even just disregarding the fact that they're always so good. It's going to be hard to get past them, which makes this a little bit underwhelming of a conversation, but you never know. Like that's why single elimination, this is March. You can always play that card. Even the fact they happen to host, if they get to Super Sunday, they're going to be hosting Super Sunday. Like a lot of this lines up so well.
Oh, I didn't realize that too.
Yeah, it's going to take a lot for a Class A team to beat Loomis Chaffee, but you never know. There are a lot of other great teams, like the teams I mentioned. I saw too at the Nickerson Showcase. I like them. Thayer's always really solid. Yeah, it's a strong bracket. It's just Loomis Chaffee's in a tier of its own, really.
Number 1 seed is Suffield. Number 2 is Berkshire. Number 3 Rivers. Number 4 Lawrence Academy. Those 4 seeds will host first round games on Wednesday. Ethan, I think you have a lot to say too about. It's kind of a loaded division as well. We've talked all year about kind of even the teams that probably didn't make the playoffs worthy enough to attend the conversation too. What sticks out to you about the Class B field and what we expect there?
Yeah, let's start there. Like what you kind of alluded to, the teams that didn't end up making this bracket. Ethel Walker was a team that was peaking at the exact right time. They had a couple of huge wins late, and they are not in this field. So just like a really tough luck for them. Cushing, I think I had mentioned on the last episode, had gotten some big recent wins. They have one of the top 20 to 27 prospects, Alana Morantis, leading the way. Cushing is not in this bracket. Greenwich Country Day is not in this bracket. Brooks is not in this bracket. So like those are teams that probably could have competed for the Class A bracket. Maybe even they probably could have qualified in the AA spots, and they are just not in here because Class B is so deep. St. George's, as the reigning champion, is the 8 seed, and St. George's is still a very good team. They didn't lose a whole lot. I know it's been a transition year under first-year coach Angelina Marazzi, but she's done a really good job, and that team seems to be hitting its stride. This is the bracket, I think, among all of the brackets in NEPSAC girls basketball where you're not going to get a bad matchup at any point in this tournament. Like Suffield is the top seed, and they're going to open against St. George's. That's a great game. Suffield is a super young team that has really come along, blown me out of the water with how well they've played. So I'm excited for that matchup. You got Lawrence Academy and St. Luke's, two kind of perennial contenders in this class. St. Luke's has Camden Nelson, Syracuse commit. Rivers, again, senior trio is really good. Natalia Hall Rosa, Grace O'Sullivan, Marissa Smith. They're going to be playing 6 Greens Farms, who we've written about and has been Greens Farms for a lot of the standings updates that they've put out. Greens Farms was like a 1 or a 2 seed, and they're going to be a 6 here, and that's not too much of a fault of their own. And then last quarterfinal matchup, 2nd-seeded Berkshire versus 7th-seeded Beaver Country Day. Again, like Berkshire, another team that has just totally surprised me with how well they've played and how consistently well they've played throughout the season. And so there you go. Like, you got 4 great quarterfinal matchups, and regardless of the teams that win, you're going to go into great semifinal matchups. I am glad we're not making picks on this episode because I am not going to be able to pick a team. Like, you could pick 8 teams out of the hat and have a shot at guessing who this champion is. I have no idea what I would do, but that's so exciting. I think I'll be doing a lot of hunkering down, especially on Wednesday, to watch some of these streams, and I'll probably have multiple streams of Class B games up because I just want to see how these teams fare against each other in this playoff type of environment. So this bracket's crazy. It's so fun.
Throw the seeds out almost with some of these matchups. Like, it just
Absolutely.
doesn't even matter. Although, like, getting that home court advantage probably is more important in this bracket, getting in that top 4, given how close evenly matched some of these teams are, right? So,
I would totally agree.
Yeah. A lot to be excited for this week. Again, Wednesday quarterfinals, Saturday semifinals, Sunday championship games. Ethan will have all the girls tournament NEPSAC coverage this week for you. We'll have predictions. We'll have takeaways. We'll have our podcast. He'll be at Loomis Chafee for the championship game. Follow along with us, New England Basketball Journal, and we'll see you next time.